If you've ever checked your blood sugar after a meal and noticed it was lower when you had a glass of red wine, this video is going to blow your mind, because what you're seeing in that moment is not improved insulin sensitivity. It's not metabolic healing, and it's not a sign that alcohol is helping your body regulate glucose. Today, I'm going to show you exactly why red wine can make your blood sugar look better while quietly making insulin resistance worse underneath. I'm also going to explain where the heart-healthy wine story came from and why it doesn't hold up anymore, and what actually improves insulin sensitivity if your goal is to reverse the root cause of high blood sugar levels. And here is my promise to you. By the end of this video, you will understand why alcohol lowers glucose on your meter for the wrong reason, why it harms the liver and muscle systems that control insulin sensitivity, and what to drink and do instead if you want real, lasting metabolic improvement. Let's start with what almost everyone notices. You drink wine with dinner, you check your glucose later, and the number looks lower than usual. That experience is real, but the conclusion people draw from it is wrong. It leads many people to believe that red wine somehow improves insulin sensitivity. It doesn't. What it actually does is temporarily shut down one of your liver's most important jobs. Your liver is one of the main regulators of blood glucose. Between meals and overnight, it releases glucose to keep your brain and nervous system fueled. This happens through two major processes: breaking down stored glycogen and producing new glucose through gluconeogenesis. When you drink alcohol, your liver immediately shifts its priority. It has to detoxify ethanol, and to do that, your liver dramatically alters its internal chemistry, especially the NADH to NAD ratio inside liver cells. That shift directly suppresses gluconeogenesis and interferes with normal glucose release. So less glucose enters your bloodstream. Your meter looks better, but not because your muscles suddenly became more insulin sensitive, not because glucose is being pulled into cells more efficiently. It looks better because your liver is temporarily unable to do its normal work. This is not metabolic healing. This is metabolic interruption, and that interruption comes with a cost. Once the alcohol is cleared, the liver often rebounds by releasing more glucose later, and in people who use insulin or insulin-stimulating medications, this mechanism is one of the reasons overnight hypoglycemia can occur after drinking. So the short-term drop in glucose is not a benefit. It is a side effect of hepatic stress. Your liver is suffering. Here's the part almost nobody explains. The same biochemical shift that blocks glucose production in the liver also drives fat production inside the liver. Alcohol metabolism increases lipid synthesis, suppresses fat oxidation, and promotes fat uptake into liver cells. Over time, this produces fatty liver, and fatty liver is one of the strongest drivers of insulin resistance, not only in the liver itself, but system-wide. When fat accumulates inside liver cells, insulin signaling becomes impaired. The liver becomes resistant to insulin's ability to suppress glucose production. So even though alcohol temporarily lowers glucose output in the short term, it creates the exact cellular environment that makes fasting blood sugar worse over time. This is one of the central contradictions of the red wine myth. The mechanism that lowers your number tonight is the same mechanism that increases insulin resistance over months and years. Improved insulin sensitivity means that your muscles can absorb glucose more easily, your liver responds to insulin's signal to stop releasing glucose, and fat is being cleared out of those cells rather than stored inside them. Alcohol does none of that. It blocks liver output by biochemical force, not by restoring insulin signaling. For decades, we've heard about a so-called protective effect of moderate alcohol intake. This idea came almost entirely from observational studies. Researchers noticed that people who reported drinking small amounts of alcohol often had lower rates of cardiovascular disease than heavy drinkers. But there was a massive hidden problem in those studies. People who drink a glass of wine with dinner tend to be wealthier, more educated, more physically active, and more likely to follow healthier dietary patterns. When researchers began properly adjusting for those lifestyle and socioeconomic factors, the protective effect shrank. When genetic methods were applied that removed behavioral confounding, the benefit disappeared. What looked like a benefit of alcohol turned out to be a marker of healthier people. It was never the wine, it was the lifestyle around the wine. You've probably also heard about the French paradox. Low heart disease, high saturated fat, red wine gets the credit. But when this idea was examined more carefully, the explanation collapsed. Differences in overall dietary patterns, physical activity, smoking rates, healthcare access, and even how causes of death were recorded explain the majority of the discrepancy. Red wine does contain polyphenols, such as resveratrol, anthocyanins, and tannins, but the dose matters. The amount of these compounds in a glass of wine is tiny compared to what you get from whole plant foods. Blueberries, blackberries, red grapes, purple cabbage, pomegranates, and green or black tea deliver dramatically higher polyphenol exposure without exposing your liver and nervous system to ethanol. And importantly, the studies showing potential benefits of polyphenols are studies of foods, not alcoholic beverages. The delivery system matters. Alcohol is not a neutral carrier. Let's zoom out for a second. Alcohol does not only affect blood sugar. Nearly all regular alcohol consumers develop some degree of hepatic fat accumulation. Fatty liver is not benign. It directly interferes with insulin signaling and drives higher fasting glucose through increased hepatic insulin resistance. It also raises circulating triglycerides and worsens lipid profiles, which further compounds metabolic risk. Alcohol also increases intestinal permeability. That means more bacterial endotoxins pass from the gut into circulation. These endotoxins activate inflammatory pathways that worsen insulin resistance in liver and muscle tissue. This is one of the mechanisms linking alcohol, inflammation, and metabolic dysfunction. Many people drink alcohol to de-stress, but alcohol actually raises cortisol and adrenaline. Those hormones stimulate liver glucose production and block glucose uptake in muscle. So while the liver is temporarily suppressed during intoxication, the hormonal environment becomes more hostile to insulin sensitivity overall. And on top of that, alcohol fragments sleep architecture. It reduces REM sleep and increases nighttime awakenings. Poor sleep directly impairs insulin sensitivity and worsens fasting glucose. If your goal is metabolic recovery, using a substance that consistently degrades sleep quality works against you. Chronic alcohol intake interferes with absorption and metabolism of key micronutrients, including magnesium, zinc, folate, and several B vitamins. These nutrients are involved in glucose metabolism, mitochondrial function, and nervous system regulation. Additionally, large population imaging studies show a linear relationship between alcohol intake and reduced gray and white matter volume. There is no safe threshold. Even low daily intake shows measurable structural associations. And the cherry on top is that alcohol is classified as a group 1 carcinogen. It increases risk of multiple cancers, including breast cancer. Acetaldehyde damages DNA and alters estrogen metabolism. From a metabolic health perspective, layering carcinogenic exposure on top of insulin resistance and fatty liver is not protective. The real reason alcohol feels calming is biochemical. Alcohol activates reward pathways in the brain and increases dopamine signaling. Some individuals, based on genetic variation, experience stronger reinforcement from alcohol than others. That doesn't make alcohol beneficial. It explains why some people find moderation far harder than public health messaging suggests. Biology is not equal across individuals. So what's the bottom line? Red wine does not improve insulin sensitivity. It temporarily temporarily lowers glucose by suppressing liver output through biochemical stress. At the same time, it promotes fatty liver, inflammation, hormonal disruption, and sleep disturbance, the exact conditions that worsen insulin resistance. The number looks better, the biology is not. So what should you drink instead if your goal is insulin sensitivity? If you want beverages that support metabolism instead of interfering with it, here is what actually aligns with insulin sensitivity. Water. Adequate hydration supports kidney function, blood volume, and hormonal regulation of glucose. In adults with low baseline water intake, increasing daily water consumption has been shown to lower fasting plasma glucose independent of weight change. Hydration does not lower glucose by flushing it out. It lowers hormonal stress signals that drive inappropriate liver glucose production. Tea. Green and black tea provide flavonoids and catechins that support endothelial function and modestly improve glucose metabolism in controlled trials. Herbal teas, such as hibiscus, provide anthocyanins similar to berries. Sparkling water with citrus, a practical alternative for people who enjoy ritual and flavor without ethanol exposure. Coffee in moderation. Black coffee is consistently associated with lower type 2 diabetes risk in large population studies, likely through polyphenols such as chlorogenic acids. Now, let's return to the root problem. High blood sugar is not a surface issue. It is a traffic problem. Glucose is not moving into muscle efficiently, and the liver is releasing more glucose than it should. Here are the strategies that change that physiology. Low-fat, plant-based, whole food nutrition. Randomized controlled trials show that diets low in fat and rich in whole carbohydrates reduce fat inside muscle and liver cells and improve insulin sensitivity. As intramyocellular and hepatic fat fall, insulin signaling improves. This is root cause reversal. Post-meal movement. Walking for 10 to 20 minutes after meals activates glucose uptake through insulin-independent pathways in muscle. This lowers post-meal glucose and improves 24-hour glucose control more effectively than the same amount of exercise performed at another time of day. Movement opens a side door for glucose. Resistance and functional movement. Brief bouts of stair climbing, strength work, and functional movement improve muscle insulin sensitivity and lower post-meal glucose excursions. Muscle mass and muscle activity are metabolic assets. Stress reduction. Chronic stress elevates cortisol and catecholamines. These hormones drive liver glucose release and impair insulin signaling. Practices that shift the nervous system out of fight or flight reduce these signals and improve glucose control when used consistently. Hydration. Adequate water intake lowers vasopressin signaling, reducing unnecessary hepatic glucose output. Circadian alignment. Your body is more insulin sensitive earlier in the day. Late eating pushes glucose handling into a biological window where insulin works less effectively and the liver is primed to release glucose. Eating earlier and finishing dinner several hours before sleep improves 24-hour glucose profiles and fasting values, not because of calories, but because of liver physiology. The big picture. Alcohol, and red wine in particular, is not a metabolic tool. It is a metabolic distraction. It makes the meter look better in the short term by shutting down liver glucose production. But underneath that number, it promotes fatty liver, inflammation, disrupted sleep, hormonal stress, and impaired insulin signaling. This is not how you reverse insulin resistance. If your goal is to restore insulin sensitivity, the path is not found in moderation tricks or outdated observational narratives. It is found in changing the environment inside your muscle and liver cells. If red wine truly improved insulin sensitivity, cultures that drank more wine would have reversed diabetes first. They didn't. The real lever is not alcohol. It is fat inside cells. Clear that fat and insulin works again. If this video helped you understand why red wine does not improve insulin sensitivity and what actually does, comment guide below. We'll send you a free meal plan built around low-fat, plant-based, whole food meals that support insulin sensitivity and stable blood sugar. This is what we teach inside the Mastering Diabetes coaching program. Not control, not restriction, root cause reversal. Until next time, keep those carbs high and that A1C low.